All right, and welcome in once again for another edition of the Best Boys 2025 Stanley Cup Playoff Wrap-Up Show. We are this playoffs. Stanley Cup playoffs started a week ago tonight, and right now we've got some pretty good series going on. A lot of great hockey happened today. It was a quadruple header on TBS on TV down here in the States. And it was just another, this is just what Carson and I talk about all the time. This is, as a hockey fan, what you want. You want a game
Christmas
back to back
Day.
to back to back. Games that start at like 12 noon
Yeah,
and end
12,
at
12 to
12.
11:30 Central, pretty much, because the game just ended now.
So this is, and it's going to happen again tomorrow. There's going to be a full 4 game slate tomorrow, so it's going to be the same thing. Tonight, as I mentioned, there were 4 games. Before we get to it, I just want to say that all of our wrap-up shows are going to be available and are available on our YouTube channel, the Best Boys Center Ice Podcast YouTube channel. That's available through the Refocused Radio Network, where you can get I Am Refocused Radio with Shemaya Reed, and of course Rudy Campos Jr., who's done a great job
Yeah,
covering the NFL
the
draft
NBA and the
and
NBA
the
playoffs.
NBA. So him and his guests have been doing a great job there. You can see all of that on the Refocus Radio Network, as along with our recaps. And tonight, 4 games. It was the first game was Florida and Tampa. It was Minnesota and Las Vegas, Ottawa and Toronto, and then the game that just wrapped up here a few minutes ago, Colorado and Dallas. So we'll start at the beginning of the day. 12 noon seems
Yeah,
like a long time ago,
yeah,
for the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And finally, we've
yeah.
seen what we thought was going to get from the Tampa Bay Lightning as they get back into the series with a 5-1 win in South
Yeah.
Florida, even after they went down 1-0 in the first period after Matthew Tkachuk got his
They
start
got
of the
five
playoffs.
straight, five straight
Five
goals.
straight. Braden Point. Then in the second period, Nick Paul, your boy, Jake Gensel in the third period.
Yeah,
Luke Glendening, and then Anthony Cirelli wrapped things up with an empty netter. Okay, so it was 4-1, and you get an empty net. Would you have pulled your goaltender at 4-1?
I mean, nothing to lose, right? Honestly,
I
nothing to lose. I
suppose.
get
I
it. I
suppose,
definitely get it. I mean, I've seen John Cooper do the same thing the other way.
and it's not
So
gonna,
it's
and it
not gonna
doesn't,
hurt. It's not gonna hurt you any more than already down three.
yeah,
So
and it
I
doesn't
mean,
hurt the
you
goaltender's goals against because
confidence,
it doesn't count. But
right? But I mean,
um,
it's you know, for the Bolts, a goal's a goal, and I mean, this game had some nastiness in it. Kachuk got a 5-minute penalty at the end for
mhm.
a late hit on Jake Gensel at the end. Spices this series up a bit more because there was a big hit the other day. I think it was Hagel, Brendan Hagel. Was it on? I want to say it was either Kachuk or maybe Matt or Sam Bennett, one of the two. And after the game, Maurice had made a comment that their players only make hits on people with the puck. Well, then we look at the game today, and Matthew Kachuk makes that hit on Gensel, and he doesn't have the puck.
Mhm.
And so after the game, John Cooper kind of a little bit of a spicy comment back says, "Oh, we only hit players when they have the puck."
Yeah.
And it's going to be a great series. I mean, it's crazy to think that after 4 games, the series could be tied at 2 with none of the teams have won a home game yet.
Yeah. And that has happened before in the
It is.
NHL.
It's not. It's
It
not. I don't want
it's
to say out of the norm, but it is pretty abnormal that happens.
Yeah, it is
It's
pretty
it's not. It's
abnormal.
not often.
Um, so yeah, the Lightning are right back in it. Again, the
This is going to be
Lightning.
a long series. We said it. I mean, I know I said yesterday there's a chance they could be swept because that's true. I mean, realistically, being down to nothing, you can be, but this is going to be a long series. 6 or 7, I imagine, is what this is going to go. Because there's a lot of gas in the tank for both of these clubs.
And Florida actually outshot Tampa Bay
Yeah,
34
they
to
did.
22.
They did.
That's almost, that you would
Well,
think, if you got the 34 shots against 22, you'd be the one getting five
well,
goals.
that says that Vasilevsky's found his mojo a little bit again.
I think he was selected first star of the game too.
I imagine.
Yeah, and so you know what? Again, Tampa Bay did what they had to do in Florida. They win 5-1, and that series now is 2-1 Florida. And let's see, Game 4 should be Monday,
Yeah,
I think.
Monday night, I believe.
Monday night in South Florida. Then we move on to a series both you and I have been
Yeah,
entertaining.
I think it's been my favorite one this round.
The
I think.
Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Pacific Division champions, against the Minnesota Wild, and this one went into overtime in Minnesota, and it kind of went back and forth in the first period. Each team got a goal in the first period. Shea Theodore on the power play for the Golden Knights. And then Marco Rossi, he evened it up for Minnesota. Second period, only one goal, and that was Foligno, Marcus Foligno. And then the third period, another power play goal for Vegas. Again, lots of power play goals in this first round as the entire
Yeah,
round is to speak. Thomas Hurdle gets his third, and then let's see,
Jared Spurgeon scored
Spurgeon
for
scored
Minnesota.
with about 9 minutes left in the third
Yep.
period, and then
And then
you go
Ivan
to.
Barbashev won it in overtime.
And here's the thing that I've always noticed, even going back to when I started watching hockey in the 70s, and you start watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, overtime either ends early or it goes forever. It never, there's no like middle, 10 minutes in. It's either going to be the first couple of minutes or it's going to go like a couple of the games have gone to double overtime. But this one went with about 2.5 minutes left. Barbashev gets his first of the playoffs, and the Vegas Golden Knights get back right into it. They tie the series at 2, and they get home ice back because they'll be going to Vegas for Game 5. I think this one will be on Monday as well, if I'm not mistaken. If it's Saturday, it should be on Monday. And then I always like to look at the shots on goal.
Vegas outshot them
46-32.
Yeah. I mean, not the recipe for success for the Wild, but they played a good game. I mean, both games, or that was a really good game. I mean, both teams played really hard.
So by just looking at these first 4 games, proves to me that Minnesota is not the same Minnesota team that we've seen get into the playoffs and fall apart.
No.
And they can hang with a big team like Vegas. Vegas have been strong.
They've been a good team for a long while.
They made the Stanley Cup in their first year. They've won the Stanley Cup a couple of years ago. They've been right there on the cusp of it. I think was it 2-3 years ago they didn't make the playoffs. They were like, and then come back and make the. So the Wild are playing a great hockey against a very good, like the Pacific Division champions. A team that what were they overall in the NHL? Third, maybe third or fourth overall in the NHL.
They were top 5 for sure.
And so even though Minnesota didn't come and pull this one out, I think they've still got a lot to hang their hat because it's tied 2-2. And they know they can win at Vegas because they did it already. All they got to do is win in Vegas, make it 3-2, and come back home to Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, big win for the Knights for sure to get back in it. And first, I have to applaud your skills of memorizing all this information as you go.
Oh yeah, it's not like I don't have a second screen I'm looking.
Oh no,
at. See, this is, and I've said this before. This is the difference between Carson and I. When we do our normal podcast, I have a sheet and I write down, everything I want to say. Sometimes it's just in bullet point form, but I have to write it down. At Carson, it's all in his head. So what he'll do is he'll take my sheets away from me at the beginning of the podcast, and I'm like lost. No, if people are looking at it and go, wow, he's saying that from memory. No, that's Carson.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a screen right now, and I can't turn my camera there. I'm looking. I've got 2 screens.
Good for you. Take advantage of modern technology.
I've got the scoring summary. So I'm not that smart. Ladies and gentlemen.
No.
But this guy down here, he's the one that. I'm just going to tell a little bit of a story about growing up. When I was growing up, all my grandfather, Carson's grandfather, my dad, and my uncle, I would sit around and we'd all watch hockey. My Carson's uncle Mike, my brother, would watch hockey, and I could rattle off stats.
Yeah.
And back in the day, the only stats you had as a kid was on the back of a hockey card because you would get the player stats from the however
Yeah,
you
the
played
cards.
years on the back of the card. So that's where you get the stats or from watching the game. Now, it's not like we had a hockey game every night. We had hockey night in Canada one night, Saturday night. And that was the only night you had hockey until they got into the playoffs. But so everybody thought I was just an encyclopedia of hockey knowledge. You fast forward now, however many years,
Mhm.
30, 40 years or 50 years or whatever it is. And now Carson's the one that is, in my opinion, and I'm not just saying that because he's my son, he is literally one of the best analysts I've heard. And I've heard a lot of analysts on Canadian TV, American TV, Canadian radio, American radio. I hear all these guys, and I hear former players that are great analysts, but they still don't have the chops that this guy does. And he sits there. He has his phone, but he sits there and everything's up here. Not just his team, the Pittsburgh Penguins, not just my team, the Edmonton Oilers. All the teams. He knows these players. He knows where they were, where they came from, their stats, and I have to look it up. So I'm cheating, folks. I am cheating. So the Vegas Golden Knights. So yeah. So hats off to Carson.
Yeah,
He's the brains of the outfit.
yeah.
Um,
But big for Vegas, so to get that game and win it. I mean,
while
you don't want to
going,
be
if you,
down 3-1 in any
yeah,
scenario. So again, it makes the series more spicy, more entertaining.
yeah,
And now it's just who's going to win two out of the next three. That's pretty
yeah.
much it.
It's pretty much it. Yeah, it's down to,
That's two out of
best
three.
best 2 out of 3. So again, that game 5, yeah, game 5 should be Monday night.
Monday night.
All right, now the Battle of Ontario.
Yeah.
Going into tonight, the Toronto Maple Leafs pretty much were in the driver's seat. They
Yep.
pretty
They
much,
could have been the first team in the round to sweep or
yeah,
to complete their series. They
yeah,
could have swept Ottawa. They could have had a series sweep for the first time. I want to say it was since 2004 or 2002, one of the two. Or no, you know what? It was 24 years. That's what they said. 24 years in the broadcast.
yeah,
That's the last time they'd swept. And unfortunately for Leafs fans, but fortunately for Senators fans, the Leafs do not sweep. They get beat in overtime, third straight overtime game in this
yeah,
series. So it's crazy to think that, yeah, Ottawa's down 3-1, but it could very well be the other way,
yeah,
where Ottawa could be up 3-1 because of those three overtime games. And yeah, I mean, that was a pretty interesting game. I mean, low shot volume on the series, in my opinion. Shot
yeah,
volume has not been very high. Uh, Teens to 20s every game for both teams seems to be the number, but it's very physical, obviously. That state slash provincial rivalry that you see in American and Canadian sports is there. Um, but I texted you about this, and it's probably a far-fetched idea, obviously, because the Leafs still are well in the driver's seat. They're up 2 games still, but the Leafs in overtime get a 4-minute power play, double minor high sticking, and they don't score. Now, a big reason for that is Tavares got hurt early in the overtime, and he actually was in the locker room getting attended to, and he wasn't out there for that power play. The Leafs don't score, but Tavares returned eventually to the game. But they don't score, and then the Sens score later on and win. And again, this is one of those turning point situations that should Ottawa win next game, they're going back home. They could tie the series at 3. That power play is a momentum switcher for Ottawa because they killed it, and Omar made a lot of big saves in it, and then they go on and win the game. And much like a lot of overtime goals are, it was, I want to say fluky, but one that really, I mean, shouldn't go. I mean, it was a lengthy shot. There was traffic in front for sure, but it wasn't like he drove in down by the dots and painted the corner. He just threw it on net and it went. Went the right way, went through the traffic, and
yeah.
that's it. It's over.
And going back again, years and years and years, that's what you'd always hear when you'd watch overtime. Just get the puck on the net. Anything can happen in overtime. Goals like that, which you call garbage goals, happen in overtime
Yeah,
because you're yamped up. You're not expecting a shot like from the
yeah,
point like that to get through everybody and get into it. But I can't. I lost count over the years how many goals like that have won it in overtime?
Oh,
It's not the
it's
fancy,
more common. It's more common that it's that kind of goal
yeah,
versus like a pure like skill shot that it just like boom.
or tic tac toe
Yeah,
passing, or a
never.
McDavid rush from one end to the other. What was it last year in the Boston Toronto series?
Oh, the home run Pasternak pass.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was yeah, because that was actually really nice. That was one of your nicer ones because
yeah.
yeah, that was right from the center line and it was right in the corner and it took that great bounce right to him. But
So,
this
but
was not even fluky, but I mean, well aimed, well timed shot, and Ottawa's back in it, and you know, and now they have momentum. I mean, they played really well all series
and
for the
and
most
when
part.
and the Sanderson goal, the overtime goal, came with like 2 minutes, a little bit more than 2 minutes left. If you're Toronto, you're thinking, man, if we could have held on for 2 more minutes, get into that second overtime, we could have regrouped. You know, I it's almost like you'd rather you don't want to give up an overtime goal, but you'd rather give it up early than late, and because you get into that last 2 minutes and you think, okay, if we can just hang on,
Yeah,
you know what, we can get into the intermission. It's not like in the regular season where they don't take any time. They only play 5 minutes. They
no,
take a full
they
20-minute intermission,
break. Yeah.
and then and so, but
But
and
the
just
and there were plenty of opportunities for that to be over earlier. I mean, both teams had shots that either hit the goalie, leaked through, or went to the side, or got blocked right in front when it was, a clear good opportunity. But yeah, I mean, 3-1, it's never over till it's over, and uh, Ottawa's gonna have a tough time winning that game. But
mm,
I mean, they're back in it. It's never over till it's over. So I mean, if they win again and again Toronto, they go back home and they can tie it up, just like that.
you were talking about the shots in overtime. Toronto had 8, Ottawa had 7, so that's a lot for overtime because
And especially at Toronto's, a lot of them came on the power play. They had 6 of them, I think, on
mhm.
that one, and Ottawa didn't have it. So I mean,
Because sometimes you could play a little bit more back
yeah,
on your heels in overtime because you don't want to give up the goal.
you don't want to be the one to screw up.
Yeah, you don't want to be the one to screw up. But anyways,
But
a great
Ottawa
game from
controlled the
Ottawa.
play for sure in overtime.
Um, a great win, 4-3, and they're still behind 3 games to 1, but they're still in it. And like I always say, you got to win four. In the
Fourth one's the hardest one.
fourth one is always the hardest one to win. Ask the Florida Panthers last year in the Stanley Cup final. They had 3 shots to win their fourth game, and they didn't until game 7. The last game of the night, which just ended here a little while
Yeah,
ago, and I'm okay. I'm back in the day. The Edmonton Oilers and Dallas Stars met in the playoffs like 4 or 5 years in a row, and Dallas always beat Edmonton. So you always have a little. And this is around the time that Dallas won the cup in '99. They would always. It's always the Edmonton. It's kind of like Edmonton and LA right now. It was always Edmonton and Dallas, and Dallas would win. I think Edmonton won one series, and so I got to not dislike the Dallas Stars, but over the last couple of years, going to games with Carson, Oilers Stars games, going to Dallas, being in there with the great fans in Dallas, I got to respect and I got to like Dallas as a
yeah.
as a team. I love Ottinger. I think he's by far my favorite goaltender, not even from my team. I think he's been, and I am terribly disappointed in not only the Stars play, well, literally over the last 3 to 4 weeks of the season, including the playoffs, they have not looked like the dominant team that they have been in the last
No,
2 or 3 years. This is the team that has been consistently either in or around the Western Conference final. They made it to the Stanley Cup final in the last few years, and now they lose tonight in Colorado 4-0. And again, I like going with the shots on goal.
48-23.
48-23. You are going into Denver, and you always talk about when you go into Denver, you always talk about it. The altitude is different. Your breathing is different if you're not used to it as a visiting team. And man, you're giving up 48 shots. Well, yeah, and then you don't get anything, nothing, no goals, a goose egg. It's just I don't know
It's
what to say
concerning.
about Dallas. I
It's
just
concerning. I mean, well, yeah, they won 2 overtime games. It's great that they did because the series could be looking a lot different, but they've been getting I mean, they've only led for a minute and 2 seconds the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they won two overtime games, but they've led barely over a minute in the four games. And the
Yep.
Avs have led for, give or take, probably 140, 45
Mm-hmm.
minutes
Yep.
of the series. I mean, the Avs, again, look at the whole cumulative series. The Avs have been the better team through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And little by little, the Stars are just kind of hanging on there, getting those overtime breaks and winning the games. But they got absolutely exposed and shelled tonight. I mean, the Avs were all over them from the very beginning, and obviously the shot totals are a testament to that. It wasn't close. I mean, watching that game, literally, I felt like the puck was always in the Avalanche or in the Stars' defensive zone the whole time. The Avs would get it, and they would get like three or four opportunities on one shift, and then the puck would get dumped back, and then they'd get it back and do the same thing all over again, and just hold the puck.
Yep.
It's crazy, and that there's only so much Ottinger can do and DeSmith can do because he came in too. I mean, four goals given up by both of them is not terrible for almost getting 50 against you,
Yeah.
and that's a potent Colorado team.
Well, yeah, and the Colorado team, they got a shorthanded and a power play goal early in the first period. So, uh, we don't see too many shorthanded goals in the NHL anymore. But there was two tonight. In this game, there was a shorthanded goal, and
Ottawa,
in the Ottawa game, there was a shorthanded goal. And then the other night, Edmonton and LA, Connor Brown had a breakaway on a shorthanded situation. And I think we can get into this tomorrow night when we talk about the Oilers Kings. But the Kings play normally. Power play would go with four
four
offensive
forwards and
players,
a
four
D.
forwards, and a D. LA goes with five forwards. So if if they get caught defensively, and you're a guy like Connor Brown, who is a great penalty killer, or Matthias Janmark, or any of
You
these
can get
guys,
it.
you can go in there going, you know what, we got a forward that's backing up, and he's not used to playing defense. So I'm not the biggest fan. I'm a big fan of you got to have a defensive guy out there on your power play.
Yeah,
But
and it's just some
I
teams
couldn't
don't
say anything
have
because
that.
the Kings are probably the best power play team
Well,
of the
and
teams
some
in the
teams,
playoffs right
some
now.
teams in comparison don't have that offensive weapon that on the defensive core
Yeah,
that they really need. Like, I mean, I know Drew Doughty's a great defenseman. He is, but he's never been that offensively potent.
no,
He really hasn't. You're better off taking the risk and throwing out like a Byfield or somebody else out there that's gonna take his
mm-hmm.
spot that can score.
Yeah,
Because Doughty won't. He'll facilitate, he'll be a good defensive presence if they lose the puck.
mm-hmm.
But it's risky, but very like you said, very rarely are shorthanded goals happening. But yeah, two tonight, one in Ottawa, one in Colorado. But yeah, I mean, if you're a Dallas fan, I mean, they have more reason to be scared right now because the Avs found their groove. They also got a goal tonight from Landeskog, his first goal since June of 2022 when they won the Cup. He made his return the other day, and he's fit in really well. He's basically a point per game for the games he's played, or more than that, actually.
He got a goal and an assist
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah, so I mean, great boost for that team, but they found their stride. Landeskog coming back has been such a boost, I think, to them
Mm-hmm.
because he's back like he never left. He's right back in that lineup and he's playing super good like he always has. Uh, but yeah, the Stars are in trouble, and especially if they don't have again Haskin and Robertson, nobody's heard about and when they're coming back. Uh, they're really in trouble, and I mean, some of their guys that you would normally think of being their big guns like Johnston and Hintz. I haven't heard those guys' names very much. They haven't done much anything.
Yeah.
And the guys that are scoring or getting it done are the guys that are in the bottom, like that Colin Blackwell overtime goal game too. Fourth liner. Even Tyler Sagan, I know he was a good, like really, really, really skilled player when he was more in his prime, but he was injured and he finally came back. He scored a goal, but you haven't heard of these star guys that Dallas needs to be there being effective. They just haven't been that way.
And it showed tonight, losing 4-0 in Denver to the Colorado
Yeah.
Avalanche.
I
That's
think at this point, even with Ottawa being down 3-1, if any team right now I think has a reason to panic, I really think it's Dallas
mm-hmm.
because they've got exposed big time.
Yeah.
And that Colorado's figured it out what works. how to break through, and just that's that's what the Colorado Avalanche do. They pepper you with shots
Yeah.
because they're so good down the lineup for offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now they go into, well, the good thing for Dallas, if you want to look at it, they
They're
go back
going to
home.
home,
They're going
but
home.
the Avs have already won a game there already. So
So that'll be interesting seeing it's all tied up. So again, we're looking at a best of three right now. So tomorrow, as I mentioned, much like today, there's 4 games on
oh,
tap.
don't we
And
love that?
yes, and it's all starts at noon noon
Winnipeg,
our
St.
time.
Louis.
Yeah, Winnipeg, St. Louis. The Jets up two
I'm
games.
excited for that game. I'm really excited for that game. That was a good game the other night against those two.
So that'll kick things off. The Jets, I think the Blues, if they can muster up another win, be tied going back to Winnipeg again, they
Yeah,
got nothing to lose.
no, and the key for them is just getting the Jets frustrated to take penalties because again the power play has been lethal
Mm-hmm.
for the Blues. That's going to be the key. But yeah, that game's at noon, and then I want to say the next one's what 2:30, and that's Saint
Two
or
thirty.
Carolina, New Jersey.
Carolina, New Jersey at 2:30. Jersey getting back into that series the other night. It's going to be in New Jersey, so that'll be a 2:30 start.
Yeah,
Um,
and then 6 Central is Washington,
actually,
Montreal,
actually, it's
or
5:30.
5:30 Central,
Five
Washington,
thirty Central.
Montreal.
Montreal and Washington from the Bell Center in Montreal, and then to wrap things up at 8:30 Central Time, it's
That's
game.
actually really nice for us.
Yeah, I guess it's going to be better than when it starts at 9:30. The Kings and the Oilers from Rogers Place in Edmonton for game number 4. You're as an Oiler fan, and I am an Oiler fan. I'm also a broadcaster, and you got to somewhat be biased. But the great thing about the internet, you don't have to be biased. I'm hoping that the Oilers can almost kind of forget about Game 3. They won 7-4, but that game is done. I think if they can do what they did in Game 3, and they kind of realized, I think, Carson, in that game, they're not going to be able to do the uh, getting into the zone skating. They're going to have to dump it in and do the forechecking like they did. That game 3 was the best forechecking game I've seen that team as a whole play in a long, long time. And you're going to have to do that against the Kings
Yeah.
because the Kings
Yeah,
have.
you don't want to get beat tomorrow and go back to LA being down 3-1. That's not good.
So I haven't heard yet about who's going to be in net. I don't know if you have or not. I've been kind of away most of the day.
They probably will announce it tomorrow, but I would imagine go with Pitt because they
You
won.
got you got to kind of go with Pickard because he's the guy who got you your only win so far. I just don't. I don't know if I don't know what the players think, but I have more confidence with Pickard being back there than Stu Skinner right now. And if it's like, and I mentioned this before on the podcast, in the '80s, uh, the Oilers determined who the starting goaltender was by who was playing well at the end of the season, Andy Moog or Grant Fuhr. Now, 9 times out of 10, it's been Grant Fuhr, but there's been times where they've had to put in Andy Moog. And who knows? You put Calvin Pickard in, he got the win the other night in game number 3. They did it in the Vancouver series last
Yeah.
year, and it turned out to be great for the team.
Yeah. I mean, he did
You
good
just,
the other
you
day,
just,
despite giving up 4. He
yeah,
did the job and they won. So keep it
he
up.
made some fantastic saves in the third period to keep them in it, to keep everything so that they could get to that big win. I think you go with Calvin Pickard until Pickard can't do it and is
Yeah.
starting to show signs.
Yeah.
But
Now,
um,
one game, real quick, that speaking of goaltending is going to be interesting tomorrow is the Washington Montreal series
oh yeah, that's
because
right.
both starters got hurt in Game 3, and the one that looked worse was Logan Thompson's looked
Yeah,
bad.
he looked like he couldn't
Yeah,
even get
he
off the
couldn't even
ice
get
right
up. So if him and Montembeau are out, you're looking at uh, McDobish from Montreal, their backup, who just started this year with them, and then Charlie Lindgren for
now.
Washington, who uh, was their main guy last year, but this year for the most part hasn't played too much because Thompson was in the net more. It's going to be interesting in that game to see what it looks like if both their goalies
Yeah,
are. sitting,
because I
which
don't think
I can't imagine that Thompson plays with how bad it looked the
no.
other day. There's no way I doubt he plays tomorrow.
Montembeau has probably a better chance, but I can't recall in one game both starting goaltenders being injured and being like not able to play the next game. I don't recall that ever happening. It might have happened. It probably has happened, but
Not in the
I don't
same game.
not in the same game. So yeah, that's going to be interesting how
And
they
the theatrics of that game too. With
yeah
did you see Tom Wilson doing the little crying stuff
yeah
at
that fight it was in between the
the
second and
bench
third
fight? It
period.
was crazy.
It was like not most fights you're off a bench clearing brawl. This is a bench going on to brawl because they went back onto the bench and started
Yeah.
fighting.
Well,
It
it's funny
was
because the referee was in the middle of that, and should he had not been there, I bet you that Wilson would have jumped in the bench.
yep.
He would have jumped in the bench, and they would have been fighting on the bench.
But that's that's playoff hockey. You know what?
Yeah.
And it's very emotional. It's very passionate, and even though Montreal and Washington are not
Rivals, really,
rivals
fierce
like
rivals.
Montreal and Boston or Calgary and Edmonton, where you just hate that other team. Like this is coming out of just nowhere, really.
Yeah.
But
But it's because they want to move on and
yeah,
they'll do whatever it takes. But yeah, like you said, tomorrow's another great slate of games. I mean, all of
mhm.
these games have big implications either way. All these series can either have somebody going up 3-1 or
Or
tying the
time.
series.
Yeah, it's everybody's
Uh,
up. All the series are 2-1 to tomorrow
yeah.
night's games.
And so two great days of hockey this weekend. I mean, today was another great day.
Mhm.
Tomorrow's gonna be a great day. I imagine we see another overtime, to be honest.
Sure. And
I'm hoping not in the Edmonton LA game because I don't need us being up till one
no, no,
o'clock.
no. So that's what we're saying. So if the game
I'll
in
take the overtime game tomorrow being Washington, Montreal, or St.
yeah,
Louis and
St.
Winnipeg
Louis Winnipeg, I could
because
see that.
that one hasn't had an overtime yet.
I could see the Winnipeg St. Louis game. I could watch that in
Ooh,
overtime. So okay, so the Oilers Kings game starts about 8:30, 8:40, whatever it's going to be
yep,
Central Time. We should be on the air by 8:30, 9:30, about 11, a little after 11, between 11 and 11:30 tomorrow night,
yep.
depending on. Of course, if it goes into overtime, it's a little different
Better
situation.
not,
But
better not.
if it ends in regulation, we'll be on here live with you probably about between
Yep,
11 and 11:30
yep,
tomorrow night. Again, another a great day of hockey today. Another 4 games, another back to back, and I think it's all TBS tomorrow too. So
yes.
here in the states, it's on
And
TBS.
there's going to be all
I'm
Sportsnet in
I'm
Canada.
not the biggest fan of the TBS/TNT play by play crew. I like the studio guys for TNT TBS.
Yeah, well, the audio seems really funky on
Yeah.
TBS. Like I heard that when they did the one in Winnipeg, they were in a studio recording it. They weren't even at the game, so the audio was all screwed up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Really?
yeah, they were in a studio, which I don't really care for that because like okay, you can definitely tell the audio is muted in certain aspects because the crowd reactions aren't that great
Yeah. I
because they've got the microphone. But
mhm.
meanwhile, you watch the same network have like the NBA and it's way different. You hear that stuff, but they don't do that for the NHL. I
you
don't
know
understand.
when you online, like I, both Carson and I are on different pages for different teams, leagues, and that. When you when I listened to the Oiler game the other night, again, yeah, the Oiler game and the game in Montreal. You didn't hear the excitement of the crowd when the home team scored. The goal horn, the crowd going out. It seemed like it was muted. But then when you go online and you see highlights from
Sportsnet.
Sportsnet or Hockey Night in Canada, and you can hear the huge difference in when the home team scores,
Yeah.
and that's the atmosphere that I was missing
The
the other night.
The good thing is ESPN is good about that, I think. And like
Mhm.
the later the rounds go on, the ESPN is going to be covering like the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, but it is unfortunate. They definitely need to uh, look into fixing that for next season, if not during these rounds, because that's what really makes it exciting is hearing the crowd pop, when they score, when something big happens. And you see it obviously with people standing up and stuff, but you don't want to hear that muted. You want to hear that.
I want to hear the crowd
Yeah,
reaction when the puck hits the twine and then they all
yeah.
just
And the
explode.
announcers, I agree. The announcers, some of them I don't really care for. I feel like they're just not as great
Yeah,
for calling the games. But you know what? It's still not the worst. It's definitely still watchable, and you can see everything, which is important. That you can see the game, and you can't. It's not blurred. But I agree.
yeah. So we'll got 4 games on tomorrow. We'll be on, like I said, between about 11 and 11:30 Central Time after the Oilers Kings game, whatever that ends, and we'll do a wrap up of the 2025 Stanley Cup Playoffs as we're getting a little bit we're getting deeper into the
First
meat
round.
of the first round. So again, thank you, Carson. Carson was watching most of the games. I was out with friends, checking in and stuff like that on my phone. But quickly, just go over the series again. We'll start out west. Winnipeg leads St. Louis 2 games to 1. Dallas and Colorado tied at 2, also tied at 2. Minnesota and Las Vegas, and the Kings have a 2-1 lead on the defending Western Conference champion Edmonton Oilers. Out east, Carolina leads New Jersey 2-1. Toronto has a 3-1 lead on Ottawa, thanks to Ottawa winning tonight. Washington leads the Montreal Canadiens 2-1, and Florida has a 2-1 lead on Tampa Bay. That's going to wrap things up for tonight. And again, you can get all of our nightly wrap ups on the Best Boys Center Ice podcast on YouTube. We'd love for you to subscribe. We'd love for you to be a part of it as well and give us your suggestions and what your thoughts are on the Stanley Cup playoffs so far. You can get us there. This will be available probably since it's still the weekend. It'll probably be available these
Monday.
last couple of days. Will be available on Monday. But we just again love this time of the year. This is our favorite time of the year. We got all these great games every night, every
Yep.
for 11, 12 hours a day, like today. And we'll be back with you again tomorrow. And in the meantime, and in between time, and he's shaking his head, everybody have a great hockey night.
Bye.
All right. Bye, son.